Malayalam, as you know, is spoken in the state of Kerala, which is in South India. Many kids remember the word Malayalam because of its a palindrome. You know what that means? Read from both sides, it reads the same. Malayan. Malayalam is an ancient language. Some people argue, some theories believe that it is one of the Dravidian languages and does not belong to the Indo-European language group. Whatever that may be, the Malayalam that we know today is probably traced to the 16th century. The script in particular, because the earlier script was called Vattaruthu. Translated, it really means round letters. And today, what we use in the Malayalam language is the Grantha script. Okay, that's about the language. And what about the writers? Oh, well, we have an entire spectrum that we can look at. From Vasudevan Nair to Vaikom Bashir to even Kamladas, remember, who wrote in English too. We have Shivshankar Pillai. But I want to mention in particular Lalitambika Antarjanam, because it is someone from her family who has translated the poem from Malayalam into English for me today. Kumaran Asan, known as Mahakavi, because that was a title which was given to him by the Madras University. 1871 to 1924. He would have lived longer because actually he died by drowning. He's a revered Malayali poet. From metaphysical to lyrical is what he wrote. He's considered to be one of the triumvirate of Malayalam poets, the other two being Vallathol Narayana Menon and Ullu Parameshwara Iyer. He was a disciple of the great Narayana Guru, poet, social reformer, as well as philosopher. His works, the important works, are initially devotional, from Subramanya Shatikakaram. Then there was a literary classic called Veena Kuvu. Then there was Parodana, which is an elegy. He also wrote an epic called Buddha Charita. His poetry is popular because he wrote about issues which are of interest to the common man. So too is this poem, one of those child-related poems. Let's see what it all is about. The poem that we have today is called Kuttiyum Thallayum, the toddler and the mother, written by Kumaran Asan and translated for us by Sarita Mohanam Bhama. So the poem, let me begin by trying to read it in Malayalam, which says, "Ee valliyil ninnu chemme pookal poovindo paranname, tetti ninna kuricholam naapum paathukkule, melkunni pongi venni nokkame yendoru bangilo, ayyo oi koodi kaadippa." Yeah, most of it sounds like Greek and Latin to us. Well, it's Malayalam, which I don't know, and therefore my reading too has not been very good. But let me read it in English for you. "Look at that blossom vine. Hey, look, Ma, its flowers, they are flying in graceful ascent." And the mother replies, "Wrong you are, my munchkin. What you see are petite butterflies." But the child goes on, "But look, look, Ma, so fascinating they are, waltzing, now up, now down. Wish I got these pals to play. Such a pity that I cannot fly." You know, reading this poem, I'm reminded of some of the poems that the great Gurudev wrote about children. There's one about days of the week where he says, "Why doesn't Sunday come oftener?" and so on. Well, there's so many poems about the child. from the child's point of view. This here is a poem which is a dialogue between the mother and the child. A toddler, 3-4 years old maybe, looks at something out there in the garden and he says, "Mom, see the flowers there, the colorful flowers there. Look how they are flying." But the mother corrects the child, brings him down to earth with a thud probably and says, "No, my dear little one, they are not flowers, they are butterflies." But the child goes on, "Wish I got these powers to play, such a pity that I cannot fly." Then the mother says, "Hush, no weeping, little one. Why dwell on the can-nots? Don't you, my baby, walk and play? Can this jasmine vine like you pull off that feat?" So early in the child's experience, the mother is probably teaching him to be happy with what we have and not cry for what we don't have. So she draws his attention to the vine, to the creeper, the jasmine creeper. Remember, one of those fragrant flowers so popular in the southern part of India. And she says, "Look at that vine. The vine can't walk, and you can walk, and you can run, and you can dance, and you can play. But the jasmine cannot." And then the child says, "Why is it so? Tell me why, Ma." And I promise a kiss. And then probably, if you want to call it, the moral of the poem comes in the last stanza where the mother says, "Everything, my child, lives in Almighty's imagination, and what precious little do we know, folks, of it." Deva Sankalpam is the last word of the Malayalam poem. So the mother says it's all in the hands of God. I'm sure the child doesn't understand what the mother is saying. But in due course, as the child grows up, probably the child will begin to understand. So mother says, everything is finally in the hands of God. So what begins as a simple nature poem, as begins about the wonder of the child and the mother explaining the laws of nature maybe, ends with a great moral for us. Everything happens with the will of God. Deva Sankalpam, she says in Malayalam. He says, the poet, but she says because it's the mother who is speaking. For those of you who have been watching the series, you would have noticed that I almost always talk about figures of speech. And one of the important ways of appreciating poetry probably is to look at the rhyme scheme, to look at the internal rhythm of poetry. But let us remember, when we look at poems in translation, probably we lose out on both of these. So then we look at the thematic concerns. So when I look at figures of speech here, I can't even talk about the stanzas. I can't talk about the meter. I can only talk about what the poem is about, which I think you've already understood as I explained it earlier. Let us learn to appreciate a poem because of what it conveys. And maybe somewhere along the line, we may lose out on how it is conveyed, because there is always matter and manner, the what and the how. And in translation, we probably have to restrict ourselves to the what of poetry. Why this poem? I feel like answering it with a question, why not this poem? As I decided to choose a poem, I talked to my friends who know Malayalam. I asked for help and I looked around. I felt like not searching for a needle in a haystack, but I certainly felt like I was delving deep into the ocean bed, searching for that bird. And did I find that bird? After I read the poem, I thought, oh yes, what a sweet poem it is. Even in the English language, it sounds so good. How much sweeter it would be in the original. Yes, I did try to read it, the English transcript of the Malayalam poem. And since Malayalam is close to Tamil, I think I got a little something of it. But I love the way the poem concludes. After all, there is somebody above us. Deva Sankalpam, as the poet tells us.